called the pollening. And for allergy sufferers, it looks exactly the way it sounds. Pretty scary.
We are in the pollening. Here's a look back at Troutman, North Carolina last spring as a massive yellow haze blew through the air.
And here's where we're seeing the pollen explode this year. So we can see it down south. Look at the red all the way back off towards the Carolinas to Texas as well. So all that red, not good at all. So we do have itchy eyes and runny noses. It won't be the only pollen problems this spring. It could also have some harmful effects on your car.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. We're wondering about this one. We're talking to the car coach, Lauren Fix, to learn more about how pollen can be damaging to your vehicle. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. It's a question we have as this yellow film starts to build up on our cars in the spring. A lot of people wash their cars more frequently. Should we be doing that? Yes or no?
Yes, but you don't want to just go out there and rub it with a sponge, because what happens is that pollen actually will cause scratches in your clear coat, which depletes the value of the car. So run it through a car wash where they'll put soap on it and water. And if you're going to wash it yourself, the secret is to use car wash soap. Never, ever use dish soap, because that will make it worse, believe it or not. So if you go and use your favorite dish soap that you use to wash your dishes and you wash your car with it, you take off all the wax, all the protectant. And then the paint is not just dull, it's more prone to get scratched from the pollen.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is interesting. So how does waxing help prevent pollen damage?
Well, when you put wax on a car or you don't remove it, like I said, using dish soap, which is the worst thing you can do. When you put wax on, especially if it's a really good wax, like whether you have it done for you or you want to do it yourself, a good quality wax will allow the pollen to go off once you put water on it. If you just put water on the car and watch the pollen roll off. And I was just down in Florida. It's crazy the quantity of pollen we have. I mean, it'll change the color of your vehicle. And the worst thing to do is not wax the vehicle. And if you want to do it yourself, go to a favorite auto parts store, ask for some advice, especially if you have a black car. That's going to be a different kind of wax. And you can burn 200 calories an hour, so you get your workout in too.
I love that so much. What if we don't wash our car until after pollen season? I mean, is it a problem to have that film on your car?
I would definitely not do that, because what'll happen is it'll start, because it's got a lot of acid in it, it's going to cut into the clear coat. And so you think, oh, it's no big deal, I leased my car or whatever. When that car is done with the lease, you're responsible for keeping that car resalable. And if it isn't, and you destroy the paint, you're going to be paying for a new paint job on the car, or at least a clear coat, and that would be expensive. So don't let it sit. If your car sits outside, you don't have a garage, see if you can find a car cover, because when you take the car cover off, the pollen will come off with it. So that might be something you can do if your vehicle sits outside on a regular basis.
I was just about to ask you that. So good. Thanks for clearing that up for us. So could pollen have any effects on your car, like the mechanical part? We know the outside, but what about like underneath the hood?
No, because typically it doesn't get there. Typically it's just in the air. And so when it settles everywhere, on the glass, on the wiper blades. And you don't want to scratch the glass either. So again, you could hose it off, and then you could always run it through a car wash. But in some areas, it is pretty heavy. I mean, it'll actually cover the whole glass. And of course, if you have allergies, it just makes it even worse.
I know. And like the cabin filters, I mean, do you have to change those more frequently, or should we change them in the spring?
You should replace the cabin air filters every 6 months if you've got severe allergies or anyone that can't breathe that pollen that's in the air. You can replace that filter every 3 months. You can do it yourself. I'm sure there's a million videos online for literally every make and model. Or if you don't want to do it, that's fine. You can find your favorite mechanic and just say, I want a new cabin air filter is what it's called. And it's really good. Also, you can do that for the engine at the same time, and you'll get better fuel economy.
Oh, okay. So I have a question. So you guys are talking about the cabin air filter. Is it any way, like, if you turn your AC on, like that can blow into your car, like into your face? Is that why you need to clean it, or is that something totally different?
That's a good question. So what a cabin air filter does is it filters out the air. I doubt I'm sure it's happened, but for the most part, you're not going to get a face full of pollen. Oh, that would be that would be a viral video for sure. But for the most part, that wouldn't happen. So you do have air filtration throughout, and there's usually a very thin layer of film that's behind the vents, but that's not going to be enough to like really filter out the pollen. So that's why a cabin air filter, because you sit in the cabin of the car like in an airplane, will filter all that out. And replacing it often is good, because when you pull it out, just take a look at it. It'll blow you away. You're going to see dust, and you're going to see lots of black soot, and you're thinking to yourself, I would have breathed that. So use the cabin air filters. They're not expensive. And if you don't want to do it yourself, that's why you find your favorite mechanic and they'll do it for you in just minutes.
I feel that way when I clean anything. I'm like, oh gosh, we were walking on that floor or we were breathing that air. Lauren Fix, we always love having you on the show. Thank you so much, Lauren Fix, the car coach. Glad to have you today.